Alright, this is Jessie. I am so happy to be back with you guys. Alright, as always, I have a ton of stuff to cover. Always. Alright, I'm hoping my stuff's getting out there. I think I got a problem in the settings, but I'm working on it. So bear with me, guys. I got somebody listening to the feed at the other end, because I do like to try and bring you the highest quality feed I can. Alright, now, let's start with a list of stuff I have to cover. And that must be better. I finally put my mic back down where it belongs. I had it up because I was getting a drink of water and stuff right before I went on air. What can I say? Alright, caught me drinking water. It's either water or coffee. Come on. Alright. So, here's what I've got for you today. And I'm going to cover some of the same topics I tried to cover the other night when the audio went completely off the rails. And I sounded like I was talking through a telephone in a tin can. Alright, China has now gotten in the middle of propping up Assad. So, everybody got their scorecards handy? Alright, great. So, we know Russia is propping up Assad. Alright, we know that one. Iran and Russia are kind of playing nice. Iran was, for a short while, letting Russia use one of their air bases in order to be closer to their alleged ISIS targets, which was really a lot of place, the Free Syrian Army or the Moderate Syrian Rebels or whatever name you want to give that group. Now, we're going to set that group aside. We're not going to get to them yet. All right. Then, remember, so we've covered two people on the scorecard. We got Iran, Russia, and, of course, Syria. Now, China. Yes, I said China has decided to get in the middle of all this. Oh, yes, our dear friends, the Chinese. So now you have Iran, Russia, and China in the middle of this. Now, it's a known fact that our two most isolated countries in the world up until recent past with the Iran nuclear deal. I'm not going to try and do the formal name of that thing. You guys all know it as Iran nuclear deal. Anyway, our trading partners. So, in a backdoor way, North Korea is involved, but trust me, it's only backdoor. All right. So, Putin unites China and Iran into an anti-American coalition in the Middle East over the span of just a few days. The situation in the Middle East in general, and Syria in particular, has undergone radical changes. Oh yeah. Many of these changes are causing people in the Pentagon to lose sleep over them. Putin is taking full advantage of institutional paralysis. Putin is taking full advantage of the institutional paralysis which is engulfing the United States during election campaigns and is literally in front of dumbfounded Americans' eyes, redistributing spheres of influence in one of the key regions of the world. All right. The reports that Russia set up its own air base in Iran. Iran legally can't do that. Iran loaned it to us for a short period of time, for some time, in order to bomb ISIS terrorists and their friends in Syria bombing ISIS terrorists and their friends in Syria to be easier. The context of these reports is key. It's no secret that Iran has long since closely cooperated with Russia. In fact, hint, Russia was one of the first countries, oh yes, darling, it was one of the first countries to go, ooh, sanctions are relief. Hey, Iran, remember that missile defense, those weapons you wanted? Yeah, we'll have them ready. Just let us know when you got the cash together. So it's not even a hidden relationship. All right, so China is now stepping in. Excuse me, Mr. Frog had to put in his appearance. Who knows, maybe we'll hear from Host Kitty later on. So, last week, the director for the Office of International Military Cooperation of China's Central Military Commission, you trying saying that 4 times fast, arrived in Damascus for talks with the Syrian Defense Minister Farad Jassim al-Frij and other officials of the Damascus government. And the China's director's name is Guaf Yafui, and I hope I'm saying that right. Do not blame me if I butchered. If I ever butcher names and any of you know the correct pronunciation, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Jessie's POV or somewhere out on the social media realms. I'm more than happy to take correct constructive criticism. All right. So, we've got China going to Damascus. And Guan, we're going to call him Guan. That's also what the article calls him. Thank you guys, you picked a nice easy name. Guan also met in Syria with unknown Russian generals. It's important to note that Guan's visit came just before crucial military developments in and around Syria, like a deployment of a Russian aircraft at the Hamadan Air Base in Iran, and the escalation between the U.S.-backed Kurdish forces and pro-government militias in eastern Syria. Oh yeah. All right, so we got our scorecards out. We got the Kurds that we support, but the Kurds want their freedom from Turkey, and Turkey hates them and calls them terrorists. Then you've got Turkey and Russia, who are, we're going to call them frenemies. They've got some mutual economic interests, but they're definitely on opposite sides of Assad. Now, I think it's pretty safe to say most of these countries have a dislike for ISIS, although right now, Assad isn't really concerned about them. He's more concerned with the Kurds and the Free Syrian Army and the moderate whatevers that are trying to take over. All right, so we know Iran's anti-ISIS. They're fighting alongside the Iraqis, trying to get rid of ISIS because they're trying to extend their sphere of influence. Oh, and by the way, Iran is also building madrasas. What is a madrasa, you ask? It is a school for Islamic study, and often they are very strict, and by the way, male only, as women are not supposed to study or go to school. All right, so we've got Iran building madrasas in Syria. We have China meeting with Syrian and Russian generals in Damascus, and we have Turkey and Russia meeting a few weeks ago to reestablish their relationship after after the shooting down of an an airliner. All right. Interesting fact, some Chinese state-linked media experts, which closely follow the Russian operations in Syria, describe Moscow's strategy towards Syrian conflict as too moderate. Oh yeah, according to them, the partial withdrawal of the air grouping, various humanitarian ceasefire agreements, and agreements across the country, and attempts to solve the conflict through a political dialogue before full military defeat of the militant factions. Premature. Oh yeah, so China wants to just bring out the hammer. Now, so we've got U.S., and we'll say a few coalition friends, because there are other countries fighting alongside the United States. We are after one thing. Well, we say Assad must go, but I think at this point they're like, whatever, let's just get rid of ISIS. We're trying to get rid of ISIS. We're mostly focused on ISIS. So it's like, all right, ISIS, you got to go. Assad, you're a pain in the neck, but you can sit on the sidelines for a while. Although it did officially demand the overthrow of the internationally recognized legal government of Syria, and officially announced that America's military forces in Syria will continue to occupy Syrian land, no matter what the Syrian government says. Now, this article, the one I'm reading from right now, is from Al-Masdar News. So it is a pro-Islamic/Muslim newspaper. I always need to let you know when I'm reading that because you can't understand the perspective if you don't understand where they're coming from. The Pentagon has announced that the U.S. is ready to down Russian and Syrian planes that they claim threaten American advisors who by international law are operating whatever. Pentagon, who are by international law are operating illegally in northern Syria. All right, first off, as far as the international law goes, if Syria actually had control of its country, ISIS wouldn't be there. If Syria actually had control of its country, we wouldn't need to be there. So we're going to set the legality of the U.S. troops in Syria aside and go, whatever. And I have a feeling that's what the people at the Pentagon and the United States government have done, going, hey guys, if you actually had control over your country, you wouldn't need us in the middle of this. The vast majority of the military forces in Syria are jihadists who have been hired by the Saudi government and the Qatari government supplied with U.S. weapons to overthrow the Syrian government. Most of the other illegal forces in Syria are Kurdish forces supplied by the U.S. government to break Syria apart so as to create a separate Kurdish state in the majority Kurdish far northeastern tip of Syria. All right. Point one here. The Saudis don't want to be directly involved. They do a few things on the fringes, and the Qatars, it's a small country if you think about it. They got more oil revenue than they do soldiers probably. So they probably did hire some military forces. They probably have some mercs. Now, as far as them being jihadists, I'm sorry, in my mind, a jihadist is the guy running into the cafe saying, Aloha granola bar, or Aloha snack bar. And you all know what I'm saying without saying it. And blows himself up. All right. Now, the United Nations has offered to has threatened to put the Saudi Arabian-led military coalition on a blacklist of state rebels. That's because one of the people higher up on the Security Council pitched a fit. We aren't going to get into who. The Secretary General is alarmed by the escalation of airstrikes and ground fighting in Yemen along the Saudi Arabian border. All right. Yemen is another failed state. Let's just be blunt about it. There really is no Yemenis government at this point. Do me a favor, guys. Mark it off your tourist list for tourist destinations. There is no part in that country that's safe. You can cross off Syria, Iran, and North Korea as well. Don't go there. It may be a beautiful country. There may be many beautiful sights. I still would... It's not the right time. Mr. Frog. Thank you for your exclamation point. All right. Confrontation. All right. Now, so we already know that Russia is just peachy. Now, remember the chemical weapons deal a few years back where Russia would supervise Bashar al-Assad getting rid of his chemical weapons? Oh yeah, remember that one? Yeah, remember Russia's his good buddy? Well, guess what? Reports are coming out saying Assad may have kept some of those weapons. And there ain't a fuzzy, friendly chemical weapon out there, folks. I'm sorry. I am looking for the part in the article where it explains the chemicals. The discovery of precursors of chemical warfare agents like Soman and VX at several undeclared facilities, including 2 on the outskirts of Damascus, and Damascus is still controlled by Assad. Underscored what a 75-page report by the Director General of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons commonly abbreviated as OPCW, describes as a troubling pattern of incomplete and inaccurate Syrian disclosures over the past 3 years about the scope of the country's chemical weapons program. No kidding. All right. The report wrote that gaps in the agency's understanding of the Syria's chemical weapons capabilities have increased steadily over time. Unless Syria dramatically steps up cooperation with his agency, the former Turkish diplomat warned that OPCW is unlikely to ever conclude that Syria has destroyed its whole program. Remember when all the trouble we were trying to get inspectors into Iran to verify and make sure they got rid of all their nuclear weapons? And the inspectors were blocked and held off and held up and couldn't go anywhere and had to give 3 days notice. Meantime, they'd be showing up at the front gate and the truck with the stuff they were looking for was rolling out the back gate. That's a lot of what's going on right here in Syria. Where do you think they learned that trick? Like I said, Iran and Assad, they're buddy-buddy. Russia and Iran are buddy-buddy. And now we got China in the mix. U.S. officials and their European partners have gone even further. During a July 12th OPCW public session, Washington's representative to the organization, Kenneth Ward, accused Syria of engaging in a calculated campaign of intransigence and and deception and defiance. My tongue's tied today. Never mind. Deception and defiance. The U.S. diplomat said samples of undeclared chemical warfare agents taken by OPCW are indicative of production, weaponization, and storage of chemical warfare agents by the Syrian military that has never been acknowledged by the Syrian government. All right. I'm looking for where it explains exactly what chemical. Hang on, give me just a second. There is one chemical in particular that really freaked him out. And I don't blame him. All right. The investigators also found significant gaps in Syrian declarations on other chemical agents, including sarin, ricin, mustard gas, and VX during a September 2015 visit to an undeclared SSRC-run facility in the village of Jumeirah, which lies to the north of Damascus. Here it is. Inspectors discovered trace amounts of DIPA ethanol and DIPAE sulfonic acid, chemicals that are closely associated with the nerve agent VX. Now, for those of you who do not know about this wonderful, lovely substance of VX, I want you to picture a drop of water. It could be anywhere. Put it on your desk, put it on your hand. One drop. If that was VX, it could kill you. And a death from VX is not a pretty sight. A death from most chemical agents is not a pretty sight. I am not going to go into the gory details, but I've actually done a fair amount of research on this particular nerve agent. So if they are finding these chemicals in undisclosed chemical undeclared facilities, come on. What makes you think? And these particular chemicals have no other use other than nerve agents. So, like I said, Syria didn't turn it all over, and Russia probably helped them hide it. And yeah, that's exactly what I think. All right, we are at the bottom of the hour. Oh, yes, we are. And it is time to go pay those bills. So we are going to take a commercial break. I'll see if I can get Mr. Frog out of here in the meantime. And I will see you guys on the other side. All right. I am back and I am live. I've got a few more stories I want to discuss with you guys. I think we pretty well covered the craziness going on in Syria. Oh, what's the matter, Host Kitty? What's your problem? Really? Well, Host Kitty has a point. He doesn't like this article. He thinks this article really needs to be brought to your attention. He's been sitting on it all afternoon. Quite literally, I might add. All right. Our good old friends in North Korea are at it again. Oh, yes. For those of you living under a rock who do not follow the news other than listening to my show, which is not something I advise, but hey, to each their own. That's why I try and bring you the stuff that doesn't get covered. North Korea recently launched a ballistic missile from a submarine. Now, the missile did penetrate Japanese airspace. Oh, yes, it did. It most certainly did. Now, according to the South Korean government, if that missile had been launched, it went about 500 kilometers. That's about 350 miles to you and I. They said that if it had been launched at a different angle, that thing could have flown 1,000 kilometers. That's about 700 miles, guys. That's a good fair distance. Now, thankfully for us, North Korea only has diesel-electric subs. It does not have a nuclear-powered sub. Thank you, God, for that one. All right, so let's see what else North Korea has also been accused of planting landmines in the DMZ. Oh, yeah. Now, there are bunches of them up there already, but no one's supposed to be planting any more. Good old North Korea has been, at least according to what the UN and South Korea are saying. Now, the UN didn't directly, of course. They never directly come out and say much of anything. But according to South Korean officials who spoke to a local television network, local as in South Korea, and it was a network MBC, as in Mike Bravo Charlie, Pyongyang has been burying explosives near the truce village of Panmunjom. All right, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the demilitarized zone commonly referred to as the DMZ, Panmunjom is where the armistice, notice I didn't say peace treaty, armistice, aka ceasefire, was signed between the North and South Korea. The two countries are still technically at war. Yes, they are still technically at war. So they say that they are stepping up their monitors they've been placing about 4,000 landmines may have been placed on the North Korean side since April. That's a lot of holes to dig and a lot of landmines. Why are they placing them? There's multiple speculations on this. Some people say it's to prevent defections from their side. Some people say it's because they're worried about the U.S. and South Korea invasion, which they claim every time the U.S. and South Korea, which are very much close military allies and regularly conduct joint exercises, they always say, oh, you guys are doing a rehearsal for an invasion. You're going to invade. And, of course, they always do the typical say, you can almost plan it. We're going to launch a preemptive military strike. We're going to military strike you. We're going to strike you. Oh, shut up, North Korea. We don't believe you. We didn't believe you the last time. You didn't do anything last time. We don't think you're going to do anything this time. Kim Jong-un, can you just shut up and go away? Now, of course, the North Korea also says that the United States placing Kim Jong-un personally and about 10 other North Korean officials on a sanctions list under their names, not as part of the country, was an act of war. So in North Korea's mind, they've got plenty of reason to go to war with us. All right. Have any of you ever looked at a picture of a North Korean soldier in uniform? It looks like, and I'm not kidding here, a Soviet-era uniform. Let me see if I can get the audio queued up. Now, I'm a little behind on grabbing my audio files, so you're going to have to bear with me for a second. I think it was this one. We'll know in a second. Yeah, I'm a little slow getting my pre-show prep done today because I was taking care of other things, and it might be this one. We'll take a quick listen. If it's not, we'll move on. No, this was about Boko Haram. That is a whole other kettle of creatures. Thank you very much, folks. So, all right, let me see if I can find it. I'm working hard here for you guys. And I apologize for not having already queued up. I have been running around like a lunatic today. And I don't like the way my files are displaying in my folder, so I'm going to have to clean it out and probably start all over. All right. Alright, I'm still looking. I can't find it. Alright. I'll check one more spot while I'm talking about it. Alright, so we have literally a North Korea who is screaming and yelling. They usually do. Most of the time, they are not worth paying any attention to. And I'm sorry, but they're not. So, what can I say? Alright, I'm seeing if I can straighten out my file system here. Yes. We now have dates. I'll have some audio for you. Hooray! Where's the one I'm looking for? Of course, I can't find that either, but we're going to take a couple. I think it was this one. We're going to take a shot at it. Nope. That isn't the one I'm looking for either. Yeah, sorry I don't have this better organized, but now that I have my dates on my files, I have a better shot of tracking it down for you. Yes. Back to the Syria conflict where I look for that stuff on North Korea. I do have something on Turkish tanks and getting into the middle of it.
Turkish tanks crossed the border.
The Free Syrian Army is backed by Turkey and the U.S. We already know that, right? So now we have Turkish troops going across into the Syrian border, which Syria is being propped up, as we said, by, yes, Russia, Iran, and now China. All right, I've got one more major news story, and then I actually did some sniffing around for a fun one today. I needed a fun story after all the doom and gloom. I mean, really? How much doom and gloom can you take in a day? All right. I'm sure you've heard about the American University attack in Kabul, Afghanistan. And it lasted 4 hours. On Wednesday evening, at least 2 gunmen stormed classrooms after a suspected car bomb was used to get into the walled complex and killed 7 students and a professor. The death toll could have been far higher, with most students managing to barricade themselves in classrooms or flee to safety, even if it meant breaking bones, as they jumped from second-story window of a second floor of a building. Oh, yeah. So, it's, like I said, security forces patrolled the 5-acre campus Thursday, and university staff visited the wounded in the hospital. Students weighed up the risks of returning to their education. One student said, "Now my parents say I should stop studying there if it reopens, but I want to continue because there is no other institution like it in the country." This is an international relations student. Opened in 2006 and partly funded by U.S. aid, the not-for-profit American University of Afghanistan had grown to accommodate 1,700 students. Yes, you heard me. 1,700 students. Which may not sound like a lot, but when you consider that this is a country where women are not supposed to go to school, and we let them, and various other things are just not supposed to happen, and we approve it here, we don't always have the best of relations with everybody. So, all right, let's see if I can get this working properly. Let me check one thing here. All right, see if we can get this audio out to you guys. Because I think I found the piece I was looking for. Now, this is a Russian woman. If it's...
Nigeria claims it has killed former Boko Haram leader.
This is the one about the Boko Haram leader in Nigeria. All right, we'll take a listen to it and then we'll discuss it. Not what the piece I was looking for, but we'll talk about this one too.
Nigeria claims it has killed former Boko Haram leader Abu Bakr Shekau again. This is at least the 4th time his death has been reported. While the Nigerian army took to Twitter to say he was fatally wounded this time, it also declared he was killed in 2009, until a man claiming to be Shekau reappeared in online videos a year later and mocked the reports of his death. Shekau became known to the world in videos with 270 abducted schoolgirls. He threatened to sell his captives and would only release them if his detained militants were returned. The kidnapping sparked international outrage and started the Bring Back Our Girls campaign to find them. Some of the girls were killed, but 218 remain missing. After the 2009 reported death, Shekau was reported possibly killed in 2013 and again in 2014. However, the Nigerian military said photos of the corpse at that time were not of Shekau, but of a doppelganger masquerading as the leader.
All right, so they claim to have killed him not 1, 2, but 3 or 4 times now. And you want to actually believe them when they say it again? All right, you're probably going to get a little bit of distortion here. Bear with me for 2 seconds. I got to check one thing. All right, so got that checked. Hey, I tried to be real quick because guess what? I knew it was going to cause a bit of noise if I kept it there long. All right. All right. I am trying to find that one clip I'm looking for. And unfortunately, I am not able to locate it. But basically, it was a Russian news report talking about how Russia and China are becoming fast friends. So we've got Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran quickly lining up against the United States. Another Cold War, anyone? Now, for those of you who are tuning in to KLRN Radio and looking for the end of JD and Stacy, I apologize, but their show has gone on an indefinite hiatus. We do not have any idea when they will return. The reasons they have gone on hiatus are theirs. If you wish to reach out to them, they are still on Twitter. I have left their show page with their links to their Twitter accounts up on the show station website. They will be there through Saturday night, in part because I don't have time to deal with it yet. So, their page will come down Saturday night there, so that you do not totally lose the ability to get your JD and Stacy fix. We will be archiving all of their shows. Now, this is an arduous process. So, all right, let's see. For those of you unaware, what is this one? For those of you unaware, the Colombian government and the FARC rebels signed a peace treaty. And I just pulled up a miscellaneous audio file. We're going to try and get a peek and see what it is. Whatever that is, we're going to fast forward.
Police say at least 10 people are dead and dozens wounded after a nearly 10-hour-long attack on the American University of Afghanistan in Kabul Thursday. Authorities say students, police officers, and security guards are among those killed, along with 2 attackers. For a time, students and staff had to be rescued from inside the university complex. So far, no militant groups are claiming responsibility for the attack, which the U.S. State Department condemned. A spokesperson said that the U.S. condemned that attack and they're continuing to monitor the situation in Kabul. Earlier this month, an American professor and his Australian colleague were kidnapped at the school. No group claimed responsibility for the kidnapping, and the professor's whereabouts remain unknown.
All right, so now you heard a little bit about the attack. Like I said, it ain't pretty, folks. All right, so at least 10 students and a professor were killed. More were injured. And we had thankfully the attackers also met their maker. I have to say I am thankful for that. Let's see what this is. I'm looking for one piece of audio I want to replay. I played it the other night. Nope, I keep pulling up that same one. Second time I've pulled this one up. Alright, I'm going to stop looking for it. I will go back into this one when I find it again. Alright, back to the amusing story right before I get off the air. Because I got to make room for the Jen and Rick show. Which is followed immediately by Ricky Robinson and America Off the Rails. So, I found a fun story. You know I like to do those on occasion. Dream of a World War I flyer comes true almost 100 years after his death. Elizabeth Nurser, 86, who has published a book based around letters from the front sent by her uncle, an American World War I biplane pilot. He gazes out from the book cover with a faraway look in his eyes. Arthur Clifford Kimber, born in the U.S. in 1996, died in 1918 on the Western Front in France. He was 22. The young American pilot perished when his aircraft was hit by ground fire in one of the last major battles of the First World War. He had taken off in the fragile wood and canvas. Yes, I said, the plane was made out of wood and canvas biplane. Just hours after writing a final letter home to his mother. Yes, people actually knew how to put a pen to a paper and write a letter back in those days. And there was, reminder to all you who are unaware of this, there was no email. There was no email. Telephones were extremely rare, extremely limited, and I'm not sure they were in the war theater. Radio signal, maybe, but we're talking military radios only. The letter was the last of many, although all through his war service, a clergyman's son, known as Clifford, wrote regularly to his family. His dream was that when the fighting was over, his unique, very personal account of the conflict could be published. Now at last, almost 100 years after his death, Clifford Kimber's wish has come true. The letters were lovingly preserved for almost 100 years, and they have been turned into a book. An American on the Western Front is the work of his 86-year-old niece, Elizabeth Nusser, and her son-in-law, Patrick Gregory. Clifford's words are there as he wanted, linked together and put into context by their carefully researched narrative. So I think that is an awesome story to end the show on. I apologize for not having more audio clips set up. I think I'm in the process of trying to rework a lot of things with Jessie's POV. There's a lot of changes coming to the station, so be on the lookout. Stay tuned to our webpage. Follow us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. Did you know we have a YouTube channel? Oh, yeah. Now, the video isn't so interesting, but we got a YouTube channel. And for those of you who like to grab us and run, literally or figuratively, you can download our episodes on iTunes. Oh, yes. The whole station and several of our shows are also podcasted on iTunes. Ain't that amazing? Sorry. My allergy meds have clearly run out, as has my time. So, on that note, I'm out of here!